Hello, welcome to Garibaldi Red as Nottingham Forest move up to third place in the Championship after a 2-0 win over Birmingham City at the weekend, leaving them 4 points ahead of 7th place Blackburn with 2 games in hand on them. And it also means they are 6 points behind Bournemouth with 7 games to go. It's becoming a weirdly customary introduction now to read out the league table, but obviously a good thing to be able to do. And to discuss all the latest Reds news, we're joined first of all by Greg Mitchell, who retained his place after last week, with lots of positive comments about Greg for his relentless optimism, which is well placed at the moment. Greg, nice clean trim there as well. I see. How are you doing?
I got too much stick about my disgruntled look last week, so I was forced to have a haircut by the wife.
Well, so was I.
Got
Not
to the
your
barbers,
wife,
and the barber even read out a little note that she'd left with him. So quite embarrassing, but we're sorted now.
Returns to the podcast today. Our second guest is a Reds reporter for Nottinghamshire Live, Sarah Clapson. Are you well, Sarah?
Very well, thank you.
Good. Where should we start? Let's start with Greg. We should, before we start recording, Sarah did mention the latest Forza Garibaldi display, which you kind of nonchalantly knocked off, Greg. But a very nice one again, well received, and a nice win for Forest. What did you make of it?
Yeah, it was just a great day. I mean, that display was originally planned for QPR, but numerous factors, we didn't have enough people available to help, and it was quite windy, so it got delayed, and I think it worked out perfect. However, it was still quite windy, and a few of the streamers did go astray. But yeah, it went down really well. It was, I think the guys who designed it found it quite a bit easier one to do, quite a simple one. So it was nice that it got received so well. And one of the photos was fantastic of the huddle, the actual huddle on the pitch, and then the one behind. I thought that was great. So start of a good day, and it just continued.
What did you make of it, Sarah, overall?
Which display or the game?
No, oh God, it's not the Greg Mitchell show.
Yeah, let's carry on.
It's not yet the Greg Mitchell show. I've only seen the highlights. It looked like quite a regulation 2-0 win. Is that fair or not?
Yeah, I think it was pretty professional, I would say. I think Forest didn't play quite to their best. They still had a few more gears to go through, but they did what they needed to do. They got the job done, and it was quite comfortable, really. I think you always kind of felt that a second goal would help, but Birmingham had a bit of a spell, particularly in the first half, but never really threatened. I don't think they did a lot with it. They saw a fair bit of the ball, but I can't remember Brice Samba having too many really difficult saves to make. It was just a pretty comfortable, convincing win. Keeps the momentum going, keeps the winning run going, and keeps the belief and the spirit going, really.
What about you, Greg? What did you make of it? You echo what Sarah says?
Yeah, it made me smile when there was, I know I'm fast forwarding to the end of the game, but when there was 12 minutes injury time, and after Cooper's interview last week where he kind of had a gripe about players, being a bit irresponsible and shooting when we should be putting it in the corners. And for those 12 minutes, we had some great chances, but you could tell they'd got it in the heads. I'm not going to be the one who gets told off here. And it was just sensible. I mean, you look at the table and you think that goal difference, we could maybe do with a couple more goals. It could be critical, but it was great to see. And it was nice to start to get used to thinking we've got this in the bag when we are a couple of goals up, instead of the old days where you thought, oh God, what's going to happen here?
A couple of early questions from people. Have I fixed my laptop? Yes, I think so. With the lighting changed, then the answer's no, but we'll find out in the next 15 minutes. Someone says, is Greg actually Scott Mckenna? He's a handsome man. That's a compliment, Greg, isn't it?
I think I need to get to the gym a bit.
It must be the haircut. But, well, yeah, I'd take that compliment if I was you, Greg. So there you go. Right. Can you believe they're third, Greg? That was the next thing on my notes.
It was nice to see. I mean, you're so confident how well we've been playing, and you keep looking at that league table where we're 7th and 8th, and you think, when's it suddenly going to jump? And this was the weekend, wasn't it? So the playoffs are in our hand now, and we've just got to keep getting those results and, consolidate that position, and then obviously keep looking above. But, there's some huge games. Every game's biggest game of the season now, but it's just nice that we seem to be that team that people are looking at now.
A sort of similar question to you, Sarah. I suppose you always speak to visiting reporters in the press box, and quite often the sentiment is, well, what's going on at Forest? I suppose now it's what's going on at Forest in a different way. I mean, what are the other reporters saying who don't cover Forest regularly?
Yeah, I think certainly after these last 3 games, since returning from the international break, afterwards, after the final whistle, I think most people have said, "Oh, Forest are going to go up now. They look so good. They're the team to watch. They're the team to worry about." And I think that's probably how opposition sides are looking at it as well, and looking at the run that Forest are on, looking at the results they've got, and the general sense of belief that's growing. And that can only help if other teams are watching you and being a little bit fearful, then maybe that starts to play when you come up against them, when you're coming up against the likes of Luton or West Brom. Because the pressure's on those other teams, the ones that have been there for most of the season. Forest have come up on the rails, really. They've not gone under the radar so much in recent weeks, but they've kind of been a bit of a surprise package, I guess, in the sense of where they've come from and how far up they've gone. So I think that's probably helped them. The pressure's on other sides rather than on Forest still.
If we go back to the start, then team news as ever, Forest were unchanged. I thought Grabban might get a start just because of his seniority and maybe Zinchenko will get a rest, but they went unchanged for the 3rd game in a row. And obviously it's working, Greg, but were you a bit surprised by that or not?
No, not at all. You keep hearing this comment, next man in, don't you? And it seems until there's an injury or someone has a really bad game, that's going to be the team, isn't it? And you'd expect it to be the same on Friday. If no injuries, you can't see anyone getting in until something, out of the ordinary happens. And that's fantastic because, let's be honest, as soon as Grabban came on, he was ready. And he's like, I need to be the starter next week. So it's just brilliant to see. And unfortunately for him, I don't expect to see him start unless there is some fatigue or something.
I suppose does that extend now to, we discussed this with Gary on the last episode, Sarah, and Steve Cook, but also Max Lowe. I mean, do players like that, are they going to have to bide their time with Colback and Figuerado keeping them out now?
Yeah, I think the players that are in the team at the moment, they've got the shirts. They're the ones that have got this momentum going and this run going. And I think Greg's right. I don't think you make changes unless you have to at the moment, unless it's necessary. Maybe over the weekend when it's Friday, Monday, perhaps the manager might consider it then. I know he did. He said he weighed it up quite heavily for Saturday's game in particular, and over that 3-game week, whether to make any changes. I think he had quite a dilemma about it, but he stuck with a winning team, and I think you do that. Those 11 players have got the results in the last 3 games, and I don't think you mess with that unless you really have to. So I'd probably stick with the same 11 again on Friday, but then maybe change it on the Monday just to freshen things up a little bit if needed.
Forest made a flying start in this one. Keenan Davies' goal from the narrowest of angles. Well, what do you make of the goal, Greg? Because he can score some great goals and he can miss a few chances, can't he? It was a fantastic finish.
I saw it just. I was making my way back round to our stand from the Clough stand, and they had a free kick shortly before, didn't they? So I popped my head up in the main stand and had a look, and went back down. Then just heard that roar, that like expectant roar that something's going to happen, and I ran up just as he slotted it in the goal, and you could tell he wanted to score against them more than anyone. Not sure whether he'll get a bit of a telling off for his celebration, but he's just so strong, isn't he? Like, nobody's getting that ball off him when he's doing that. And he's not the same player as Collymore, but it was a Collymore-style goal, just like pure strength running through. I'm having this. And that's going to be brilliant for him because he's doing everything at the minute. And to get the goals as well now, that's exciting. You can't see him being rested at all, can you, if he's playing like that?
No, I suppose that's the thing, isn't it? But in a way, did he sort of need it, Sarah? Because he does have Surridge and Grabban doing everything they can, especially Surridge at the moment.
Yeah, well, both Grabban and Surridge are definitely breathing right down his neck, and he'll know that. But I don't think it's not just his goals; his all-round play is is fantastic. He is undroppable at the minute, I think, because he just gives defenders such a torrid time. And then when they look after an hour or 70 minutes or 80 minutes or whatever and see that you've got Grabban and Surridge coming on, their heads must just drop and think, oh, what do we have to do to get a break? Because they've been run ragged by Keenan Davies for much of the game. And he's such a handful. He's so strong. He's so powerful. He's got pace. He's got a great touch. He brings other players into play and he can score terrific goals as well. His confidence must just be flying at the minute, not just because of the goal on Saturday, but just for how he's playing. And we spoke to him before Saturday's game, actually, and he said how much he was loving life at the moment, loving life at Forest, loving being in the team, loving being in this squad and with this group of players, and being at the top end of the season and having something to play for. And you can that reflects in his games, because he just seems to be enjoying himself out there on the pitch.
Does that put them in driving seat to get him next season? If Villa let go, Villa are having a nightmare, but are they Forest ahead of the pack? Because there's going to be so many teams interested in him now, aren't there? Yeah,
I think that's the thing. When you're in that kind of form, other teams are bound to be looking at you. But he really does seem to be enjoying his time there. I guess it's a double-edged sword, isn't it? When you've got loanees that are doing well, their parent club are the one who hold all the cards. They can say, well, this is the price that we want if you want to buy him. And the fact that he's been doing well probably drives that up a little bit. I guess it's the same with a lot of players. If Forest go up, that changes everything. It changes how you look at the summer transfer window and what you might be willing to spend to get players back in or bring in other players. You'd like to think that they're in a good position if they do decide to take that route. I think they will definitely look into it, whether it's a loan or whether it's permanent. I think he's a difficult player to replace now, isn't he? He's shown what he can do, and if you're looking beyond into next season, trying to think, well, who do you get to replace what Keenan Davies has to offer? It's tough.
Yeah, I mean, a notional question, Greg. If there's only the money to keep Davies or Graben next season, if you could get Davies but you had to sacrifice Graben to fund the Davies deal, would you do that now?
Purely on age, I suppose. I think so. I think that's a real tough one, isn't it? And I think I'd do it no matter what league as well, where Graben, I think, he's a superb player. He's been a great servant for us and hopefully will be next season. But I think if you're looking at longevity and the Premier League suit, I'd want to see Davies in either league next year for us.
Put you on the spot as well, Sarah. What would you do if you had to finance a deal for Davies by sacrificing Graben potentially?
It's such a tough one. I still think Graben is worth keeping for another year. I would absolutely be offering him a new deal because he scores more goals. I know there was question marks over Keenan Davies when he came in as to whether he could do that. And I think he's proven people wrong in that sense that he can get goals, but Graben's a goal poacher. He still bank on him to get 20 plus a season. If he hadn't been injured this season, I think he would have got there. I'm not quite sure Keenan Davies is quite at that level at the moment, but Keenan Davies offers so much more, doesn't he? In terms of his all-round play, I think, than Lewis Graben. It's tough. It's really tough. Yeah, I'm going to sit on the fence and not quite.
I could have done that.
Say I'm glad I'm not in that position, having to make those decisions.
I suppose the hope is that Lyle Taylor funds it by getting a move somewhere and Forest get him off the wage bill. I don't think they get a transfer fee for him, but you never know. But he's doing well at Birmingham, so fair play to him. I'm going to jump way ahead in the game because I don't think I missed anything here. But the next major incident was the injury to Neil Etheridge. I mean, that looked scary. What was it like in the ground, Sarah?
It was scary. He was down for quite a long period of time, and you could see it was quite serious. When they brought the stretcher on, it never looks good, does it? I don't think there was any malice or intent from Jed Spence's part. I think it was just two players going for the ball at great speed, and we know how quick Jed Spence is, and he just kind of caught him, I think, with his knee, and knocked him out cold. But hopefully, it looks like he's okay to some extent, because it's never nice to see anybody go down like that.
I think he's out of hospital, isn't he? I read that over the weekend, so that's good to see. We'll jump ahead to the Mckenna goal then, I guess. He's talk about the goal, Greg. I mean, Forest getting goals from set pieces is a useful knack, isn't it? And they're weighing in with a few now.
From off the back of his head, wasn't it? But
doesn't matter.
No matter how they go in, you've got to be in the position. And he's this week's player of the season, isn't he? It changes every week for me, but he's just colossal, absolutely colossal. And thank God he isn't one of the loanees, and we've got him next season. I mean, I can't believe Scotland still don't have him as their, number one central defender. He's usually on the bench, isn't he? But you can't see that lasting for long now. Still in his 20s, defenders always have a longer career, don't they? So I'd be looking at getting an even longer contract for him, because he is just unbelievable, and rightfully got the Des Walker song to his name now as well. And I think that's quite an honour from Forest fans. So just what a player. What a player. All three of them are just superb, but he really is standing out now.
Who's your player of the season this week, Sarah?
I actually said Mckenna a few weeks ago, and I'll stick with that. I think Spencer and Johnson get the limelight. They get all the headlines because they're exciting to watch and they've been so influential. But Mckenna has been the most consistent for me throughout the whole season, and he's just been key. You need a solid defence if you're going to do anything, and he's been a massive, massive part of that. And I think he seems to get better and better. He never loses a header. He never lets his marker go, although he did say after everybody had sung that chant about him that suddenly he let two players get past him. I don't think he was too happy about that. But yeah, I think he's just been immense. He's been terrific.
Yeah, it'd be him, or I'd maybe still go for Johnson, just because he's such an exciting player between those two now. But it's mad, isn't it? I mean, a couple of seasons ago, you couldn't name 3 candidates. Now you could name 8, 9 legitimately. That's shows how well they're doing, certainly. You're not on McKenna. I mean, there's no worries about anyone coming in for him then, Greg? A big Premier League club.
I wouldn't. I'd hope not. I think with Worrell, because of his potential England pedigree, and the English players seem to get more of the attention, don't they? And he seems to be ready to be in the Premier League one way or another. You'd hope McKenna, isn't as popular, but it's a scary thought, isn't it? But it's great that they probably are getting this attention. If we get in the Premier League, we're not even going to have to worry about stuff like that, are we? But give it a season or two, and he's still playing like he is, then he's in the Prem with us or someone else, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose I asked that, Sarah, because to me, he's, he could get in the Burnley, the Leeds, the Norwich, blah, 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 teams quite comfortably, couldn't he, McKenna?
Yeah, I think so. I think Greg's right. One way or the another, eventually, he's probably going to be in the top flight because he is that good. I think it's just that he's gone under the radar in terms of the wider perception a little bit, because Joe Worrell's had speculation about him for years, and I think everybody's well aware of him now. But McKenna has just kind of come in, and maybe other teams haven't picked up on him quite so quickly. But the more he plays like that, I'm sure they will. He's just been fantastic, and I think when you're performing at that kind of level week in, week out, eventually somebody's going to have a look at you. Hopefully not this season or for this summer.
Interesting question from Greg Oram in the chat. Figuerado was destined to leave. I mean, he very, very nearly left in January by everything we hear, and he's out of contract, and it kind of feels like he's definitely going. Do you think, Sarah, maybe they try and keep him now, or is there like a gentleman's agreement and you say thanks for your service, you can go back to Portugal and do what you want to do now?
Yeah, I think he has been a great servant, and he's been excellent since he came into the team, and you can't fault him for that. But for me, I would still bring Steve Cook back in when he's fit, and I think longer term, that's 3: Worrell, Cook, and McKenna, and then Figuerado's back to being on the bench and waiting for a chance. And you've still got Loricon Baysau, there's Jonathan Panzo, there's younger players coming through as well. So I think Figueredo, I would probably be tempted still to let him go in the summer, and just say thanks for your effort this year, particularly because he's played a massive part in getting Forest to where they are. But I think if you're looking longer term, he's kind of at that age now where it's looking at what's to come, and looking at maybe younger prospects.
Yeah, he sounds like a great team man, doesn't he? But you saw the 23s, Greg, didn't you, recently? And I think Panzo had a really good game, and he looks a good prospect. Do you think maybe you have to clear a path for Panzo to get an opportunity, and then Baysau, as Sarah says?
It's so sad, isn't it, that we've got all these great players all at once? But I was speaking to someone after the Coventry game who's in and around the club, and they made it clear that, like, on and off the pitch, he's just a model professional and a real likeable guy. And if he's not playing for a contract with us, he's certainly going to get a good one somewhere else, because he's been sat on that bench for so long, and he comes in and does the performance he's been doing. And, Cook's soon ready to come back, isn't he? And Fix is playing out his skin. So if he doesn't get a contract with us, I hope he's looked after elsewhere, because he certainly deserves it.
A couple of people asking about Richie Larea, Sarah, in the chat. Well, basically, where is he? Or should he get a run of games? I mean, like you say, don't change a winning team, but there's always this notion they might play Middlesbrough in the playoffs, and then there's no obvious replacement that I can think of for Spence. Larea is meant to be. What do you think's happening there?
Yeah, I think it's. I'm a little bit surprised that he hasn't had a few minutes so far, but I can. You wouldn't change that team. He doesn't get into the 11 at the minute, and then if you're bringing attacking players off the bench because you're trying to get more goals, I can understand the manager's thinking behind that as well. I guess all he can keep doing, Richie Larea, is trying to catch the manager's eye in training and keep trying to impress and trying to show that he's ready and follow the example of Figuerado and Cafu and Lolly in making sure that you're prepared and you're ready to go if and when you're called upon. That's, I guess, all he can do at the minute. I think it's still a case of him adapting to Championship and English football and not kind of trying to jump ahead a little bit. We've seen that with Brian Ojeda as well. The manager has been really good at knowing when to pick and choose players, and he's got it absolutely spot on so far. And if he doesn't think they're ready, or if he doesn't think it's quite the right time yet, then you kind of have to trust him. He's the one that's seeing them every day in training and talking to them and having conversations and watching them all the time. So I think you just have to put your faith in him a little bit. And as and when it comes to the playoffs and having to pick a side based on who they play, then I'm sure he's got something in mind.
Yeah. I just wonder whether you give him 10 or 15 minutes here or there, maybe, just to blood him in. But Steve Cooper's bulletproof at the moment. We certainly can't question any of his decisions. Are you convinced, or are we? Well, I know you're convinced, Greg. Are we convinced Forest are going to make the playoffs now?
Are we talking to me? Or?
Yeah, I'll go to you first. I mean, it's a pretty obvious answer, but
yeah, I am. You look at that table now, and the only thing you look at is how many away games we've got, but we're brilliant away from home, so it's not a concern for me. I think we make the playoffs, and we hopefully get the favourable draw with it as well. And if it is Middlesbrough, I don't know what about like Low and Colback either side. Is that an option? But it's certainly going to be something they're thinking of, because there's a very good chance either Low or Spence doesn't play in the playoff semis, isn't there? So I'm sure they're looking at that. But you look at that table now, and it's just nice, and you think it's just rewards for this majority of the season so far.
True. What about you, Sarah?
Am I convinced they're going to get in the playoffs?
In the playoffs, yeah.
Yes, but I think I said that 2 or 3 years ago as well, or 2 years ago now, and ended up being proven quite wrong with that. But I think the feeling now, there's a very different feeling this season than there was under the Sabri Lamucci season. I think at that point you could see that Forest were absolutely clinging on, trying to stay in the top 6, whereas now they've got the wind behind, they've got the wind in their sails. They're the team to fear at the moment. So I think the general feeling is a lot different. But I think they've got it in their hands now, and that's good. They're up to third. They've got those games in hand on a lot of the other teams. So it's definitely looking very promising.
Does anyone worry you, Greg? There we go. Put the table up. Oh, I was doing that in the background. Sorry. Does anyone worry you there, Greg, in the 7, 8, 9 positions?
Middlesbrough.
Yeah.
Not so much Blackburn. I think Blackburn are really dropping off, and I think Millwall are having a very good season, aren't they? But you'd think Middlesbrough, and if we beat Luton on Friday, which obviously hope we do very so, I think Middlesbrough will capitalise on that. But I think they're the ones going to be fighting for one of the spots. Yeah.
Who are your 4, Sarah, then? If we say Forest are one of them, we'll come on to the other conversation in a minute. But if Forest are one of the 4, who are the other 3?
I think Sheffield United and Middlesbrough and probably Huddersfield. Probably not in that order, but those would be my 3. I think Luton have done fantastic. I kept thinking that they would fall away at some point, but they've stayed right up there, and they're a tough team. So I wouldn't be at all surprised if they managed to sneak into the playoffs as well. But Sheffield United and Middlesbrough I've really liked the look of for much of this season, and Huddersfield have been doing really well as well. So they would be my picks.
Yeah, I think they'd be mine as well. I just wonder if Huddersfield might drop out. Luton seems to have something about them. But yeah, I agree. I think Middlesbrough and Sheffield United do look good, which kind of leads us on to the other conversation, which we discuss now every week. Can Forest catch Bournemouth? So I've got the fixtures here. So me and you, Greg, did a little rough calculation of how many points for each team. And you, the ultimate optimist, still only had Forest scraping ahead. I think you had Bournemouth getting 9 points and Forest 15. Is that right? Which would put Forest up on goal difference potentially.
Yeah, I had Bournemouth's losses against Fulham because I think that'll be the game Fulham probably take the championship, and then they'll lose against so have I got here Swansea, and I think we'll draw against Bournemouth, and I think that'll really open it up. So when I looked at it, I wasn't thinking about how many points, and it worked out that we'd be level on points final game of the season.
What about you, Sarah? I mean, I know I'm asking you to do it right on the fly here, but do you see Forest getting enough points from that to overhaul them or not?
I think it's going to be really, really close. Forest are the team in form, and Bournemouth have had not quite a wobble, but they've dropped off a little bit. It's definitely looking more possible than it was a few weeks ago. I do still think that gap is going to be just too big to close, but I think Forest will be very, very close to it. I think it's going to be really tight.
Have you got your notes there, Greg, to hand?
Yeah, I'm just looking at them now.
Go on, read out the Forest results.
So Forest, I had draw on Friday, 2 wins on the bounce against West Brom and Peterborough. We're going to draw against Fulham, beat Swansea, draw at Bournemouth, which will be huge, and then have the most horrific, nervous last day of the season that I won't be able to cope with, and we'll beat Hull City with God knows how many Forest fans in attendance. But it does, wow, that's the thing with Bournemouth. It just, you look at what I've put and it makes you realise how their form's really got to, continue or dip even further. I've got them winning against Middlesbrough, drawing away at Coventry, losing to Fulham, drawing away at Swansea, a loss against Blackburn, obviously drawing at us, but then winning their last game as well, Millwall at home. Unless Millwall, they might be fighting for that 6th position. So although their form has to drop it, they've got some horrible games. I know we've got plenty of them away, but I would rather have our run in than theirs.
Yeah, I mean, when I looked at it, I had Forest going up by a point. But the same thing as Greg says, Bournemouth's form would have to just collapse. I think I had them losing their last 3 games, beating Middlesbrough on Saturday or Friday, whenever it is, and then losing to Coventry and drawing with Fulham, and then drawing with Swansea. I mean, it's very difficult to see. And Forest, they can virtually afford no slips. I think I had a draw with Luton, a win against Albion, a win against Peterborough, maybe a defeat or a draw at Fulham, and then win the last 3. I mean, Sarah, that's the odds of that 1 in 10, something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, they are, but equally the odds would have been on Forest being in 3rd place after the start they had. I imagine wouldn't have been great either. So it's possible. I think it is probably going to prove a little bit too much, but you never know. The pressure's on Bournemouth, and pressure can do funny things to you. When you can see somebody, when you're looking in your rearview mirror and you can see somebody coming right at you, that can do funny things. So interesting to see how they cope with that.
True. What's Cooper saying about it, Sarah? I know what he's saying. It's probably different to what he's thinking, but what's he saying?
He's pretty much the same as he has been throughout the whole season. And it might be a bit of a cliche, but all he does is look at the next game. Any talk of looking at where Forest are in the table, where they could be, who they could overtake, who they have overtaken, quickly gets dismissed out of hand, and his focus is very much on Luton now and trying to keep the run going. And his emphasis is on performances. I think for me, what was quite interesting the other week was that he said he wasn't. Yes, you want results, but more important is playing well now, because that in turn gets you the wins that you need. And that's probably different to some managers. I think when you listen to them, they say, well, it doesn't matter how you get wins at the minute, as long as you get wins or as long as you get points. Whereas his emphasis is very much on play well, play to your potential, be the best version of yourself that you can be, and that'll get you to where you want to be. He's so focused, and you can see that among the players as well. Anytime you speak to any of them, it's very much tunnel vision and not thinking about what anybody else is doing, and it's worked so far, so stick with it.
I think one thing that we've said throughout this run, Greg, is I won't be too disappointed if Forest don't go up, because I'll be optimistic for next season. But surely that's kind of changed now, hasn't it? Because you would be gutted if they don't go up now. It wouldn't be their fault necessarily because they had such a bad start, but that emotion must change now if Forest don't go up this season.
This opportunity is bigger than any in the past. I know there's that one we touched upon where it went mental against Stoke last game of the season to make us finish like at the top 6, but we have the momentum, and we can't be disappointed if we didn't make the top 2, because I think it'll be very close now if we did. But just take what we've done the last few months into the playoffs, and we're not that team of old in the playoffs. You know, we're completely different, and if we make that top 6, we're going to be one of the favourites. Surely over 2 legs, you can have a bad game, but over 2 legs, I think we've got so much strength after a long season that other teams may not have, and we'd certainly be that team that none of the other 3 would want. Hopefully, it'll be top 2. That'd be nice. But if not, we'll be the playoff team.
Just briefly on Friday then against Luton, I think you said, Sarah, you wouldn't make any changes. You just roll with this 11.
Yeah, I'd stick with the same 11. Had a little few days break. Should be fully rested, recuperated, refreshed. And then you've got those players on the bench to bring on: Lolly, Graben, Surridge, Alex Martin, Cafu if you need him. Those kind of players, if they're as and when you need. And then maybe look to freshen things up on Monday. But I'd stick with the same team.
Are you one of the lucky 1,000 or so that's got a ticket, Greg? Are you managing to go?
Yeah. We've got a bus leaving at 8 a.m, I think. Got a pub expecting us in Luton. So, it should be good. And I do feel sorry for the others, because obviously we have this away membership scheme, and I think that might need looking at in the future, especially if we're in the Premier League, because it's going to be even more popular and we sell out wherever we go now. So we've got to maybe have a look at that. But yeah, lucky enough to be there, and hopefully it's going to be as memorable as some of the others. Yeah,
tickets like gold dust now in general. It's a good ground though, isn't it? I love Kenilworth Road. You've been to take it.
Yeah, it's one of those that you'd want to take. I had my Dortmund friend over this weekend, and you know, Forest always win when he's there, and I've just said goodbye to him this morning, and he was saying I'm going to have a look at flights for Fulham on Friday. I thought, you're not going to get a ticket. So, but yeah, that's just a buzz around the place at the minute, isn't it? And it's a fantastic ground, to answer your question, and one of those ones that might not be there for much longer, because it's probably not fit for purpose. But when you walk in the away end and you're looking at people's back gardens, it's a real strange one, but I wouldn't change it. I enjoy going there.
Would you take a draw now if it was on offer?
I'd rather have a win. You always do this.
That's why I invite you on this podcast for that kind of insight.
Isn't watching as well, because I'm suddenly selling in. But if we're going to have to not win every game, I'm sure there'll be one draw in there. So yeah, we can have it on Friday and win the rest.
What about you, Sarah? Would you take a draw if it was on offer now, Sarah? I think I maybe would.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, because Luton are a good team, and it's a tough place to go, and top 6 rival. I would definitely take a draw, but I do think Forest can go there and win.
True. Me too. Right, I think we'll leave it there for this week. Thanks very much, Sarah, to everyone who's watched along. We get more views on YouTube than we have subscribers. So if there's people who are watching but not subscribing, do subscribe, because then you get an alert so you don't miss an episode. And the same if you're on iTunes or other platforms. Thanks for all the questions and comments today, as ever, much appreciated. Greg, thank you very much.
No, I enjoyed it. Cheers.
Good. Sarah, thank you.
Thank you.
And we shall be back probably next Tuesday after the West Brom game, I think. I don't think we'll be back before then, but do join us next time we are with you, and we shall see you all soon.